بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين والصلاة والسلام على صاحبي الوقار والسكينة المدفون بأرض مدينة الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المذلومين المنتخبين الذين كلامهم نور وأمرهم رشد ووصيتهم التقوى وفعلهم الخير وعادتهم الإحسان وسجيتهم الكرم لا سيما للحسين المظلوم المقتول المجروح الأتشان المذبوح من القفايا في يوم عاشوراء في أرض كربلاء بلا جرم ولا خطأ الذي غسله دمه وكفنه رمال كربلاء مقطع الأعضاء مسلوب العمامة والرداء يا ليتنا كنا معكم سيدي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والضحى والليل إذا سجى صدق الله العلي العظيم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran mentions وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى مَا وَدَّأَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَلَى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Quran al-Kareem often takes oath by periods of time. So for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself says وَالْعَصْرِ, taking oath by Asr and time itself, or even by the time of Asr. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes oath by Fajr or the dawn. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes oath by the night time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentions different periods of time during the day, such as the daybreak, the dawn. In this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentions one period in time of the day where He says وَالضُّحَى, I swear by the morning light, وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى, and by the night time as it wraps, مَا وَدَّأَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَلَى, your Lord has not left you, your Lord is not angry with you, upset with you. Analyzing these verses to understand how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala often takes oath by certain things that we see in our day-to-day life. However, He links those oaths to certain messages in Quranul Kareem. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala isn't like a khatib who hasn't prepared, who says one thing at the beginning of the lecture and says a completely different thing at the end. Rather, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes oath by a certain thing and then mentions, for example, your Lord isn't upset with you, your Lord isn't angry with you, what is the link between the morning, daytime, and the light that spreads during the morning and the night that covers, and this verse? And what was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala referring to when He said وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى? Analyzing this, the first question that comes is that dhuha, the meaning of it literally is shababun nahar. So we understand the day has different stages, has different parts. So we have tulu, when the sun first begins to rise after the time of Fajr. We have the time of zawal, where the sun reaches a zenith, a point, the highest point on the horizon. Straight after there is zawal. Zawal is what? Zawal is when the sun, as it reaches the highest point, the Ra'sul Insan, the highest point in the horizon, it starts to go down. When it starts to descend, this is the time of Dhuhr, and this was Zawal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He says Duha, what was Duha? Duha was the time in between Tulu' ush-Shams, the rising of the sun, and this Zawal. And it was known as Shabab al-Nahar, or the youth of the daytime. Meaning what? Ulama mentioned Duha, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says Duha. This is that time where all of the light has spread around the city. It is not so hot as midday or noon. It is the youth of the daytime, in the sense that the land is completely bright with light. However, it's not too hot that is unbearable. And that's why it was called the youth of the daytime. And ulama discussed this to be roughly around 11 a.m. It was this time, Shababun Nahar, that Nabi Musa alayhi salam would speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it was also on this occasion where the issue or the incident of the staff turning into a snake and the magicians performing sajda and then saying Amanna bi Rabbi Musa wa Harun took place. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was referring to this period of the daytime, early morning around 10:30, 11 a.m. After which he would say وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى, and the night as it wraps. Today, if a person leads Salatul Mayyit, one of the things that is often mustahab to recite is Allahumma ghfir li hadha al-musajja. Musajja meaning the one that is wrapped up in the cloth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the same word, and the layl, and the night as it wraps up. To understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was speaking about in these verses, we need to understand the reason why it was revealed, and what the Mufassirin from Muslimin, from Shia and Sunnah, what did they say about why these verses were revealed to the Prophet of Islam, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. The answer that is given about the reason for revelation is that the Prophet of Islam, as we know, was given revelation through Jibreel. Prophets of God, as the Quran itself mentions, were given revelation in different ways. Some, for example, through true dreams, like Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, certain prophets from Banu Israel, their revelation was through dreams. Others were given behind a covering, behind a hijab, how Musa alayhi salam gains revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when he says, I saw nar, and then the fire, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke through the intermediary of the fire. The Prophet of Islam, as we know, gains revelation from Jibreel, salamullah alayhi. The Mufassirin mention, based on riwayat, that as we know, some say that this was the second surah to be revealed to the Prophet of Islam. Others say no. However, what we are aware, and definitely what we know, is that this surah was revealed during those days where the Prophet of Islam lives in Meccatul Mukarramah, during the formative period of Islam, where the Prophet of Islam has to deal with the mushrikeen, indulge himself with conversation with the polytheists and the mushrikeen and those that didn't believe in Islam. We are told that as revelation would come down constantly, and this revelation would have great effects on the Prophet of Islam. We would see, for example, the companions would mention, we would see the Prophet of Islam sitting and suddenly his face would change. Why? Because Jibreel comes down with a new revelation. Sometimes this revelation would come whilst the Prophet of Islam was in Salah himself. Sometimes he just wakes up from sleep and revelation would come down. Every single place where the Prophet of Islam would be, revelation would come to him. And this, in actual fact, is one of the great qualities of our Prophet. Why? Because Musa alayhi salam, when he wants revelation, he has to go to the mountain to gain revelation. But for the Prophet of Islam, revelation would come and knock on his doorstep. This was a difference. This revelation that would come regularly, one day it stops. Every day Jibreel comes down, tells me your Lord is telling you X, Y, and Z. Today, nothing. According to the historical reports, this revelation stops for 12 days, or for 15 days, or for 40 days. And to give a very bad example, bidun tashbih, is like I, for example, speak to someone on my phone every single day. You have a very close friend, you speak to them. One day, nothing. So you'll wonder, what's going on? Are they upset with me? Has something happened? What's the reason for this? The same thing takes place. The mushrikeen, they say, Ya Rasulallah, in quote marks for them, where is this Jibreel of yours? Where is this message? Has your Lord, for example, become angry with you? Have you done something that has upset your Lord that no longer is there revelation? So number one, this was hurting the Prophet of Islam. That the non-Muslims gained an excuse to point the finger and say, look, this was all a shambles and this Lord of his no longer wishes to speak to him. Number two, when someone is close to another person, they love to speak to that individual. The Prophet of Islam is very close to Allah, is the closest being that was created to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He loves to have conversation and munajat and gain wahi and hear from his Lord. And therefore he himself was wondering, why has the revelation stopped? Because of this, after 40 days, or 12 days, or 15 days, the first revelation to break this period of absence of wahi was وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى. Once this has been understood, we understand the first idea that the Mufassirin discuss about this verse is that it very clearly shows that even a few seconds for the Prophet of Islam, days, hours, where he doesn't speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, feels like an eternity for the Habib of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the Muslimin, for example, he'll go 1 year without praying Salatul Fajr, or he'll go 1 year without even once opening Quranul Kareem, or he'll go years in his life never shedding tears and doing munajat, or he'll go years never waking up before the time of Fajr to speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in complete secrecy, and it has no effect on the heart of this Muslim and mu'min. The Prophet of Islam has such a connection that he says a few hours or days where I don't speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala affects me. I wish to constantly be in conversation with my Lord. Today, this day and age, is a day of conversation, of speaking. I have on my phone, I chat very easily. WhatsApp, I can speak. Facebook, someone can chat. Everything they have, the whole point of my day is focused on speaking to one another. And as I said, a person has someone very close to them. How happy do they get when that person rings you? When you see FaceTime of someone that you love? When someone messages you, how happy do you get? Have you ever been that happy that I woke up 1 hour before the time of Fajr to speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Why? I love to speak to my friends and my family and my beloved ones because their love is deeply rooted in my heart. Unfortunately, I don't speak to Allah because His love is not found in my heart. The Prophet of Islam says this was the love I had. Certain times, certain wives of the Prophet of Islam would say that we would see him after he gained revelation in sajda for hours upon end, and when he was would he raise his head the next day. When people would come into the house of the Prophet of Islam, they would see all of this area is wet. What's happened? The wives would say, today Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed certain verses of Quran. The Habib couldn't help but crying for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's love and infatuation. Wal-Duha showed that when there is proximity, there is conversation. This reminds me, if a person today goes to the shrine of Amir al-Mu'mineen, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, outside of the shrine, as we know, on one side buried is Allama Hilli, rahmatullah alayhi. On the other is Sheikh Muqaddas, Sheikh Ahmed Muqaddas Ardabili, author of Zubdatul Bayan fi Ahkam al-Quran. Sheikh Muqaddas, who was given this title of the pure, by who? Sheikh Muqaddas was given this title of the pure by Sahib al-Zaman himself. And many anecdotes you can find about his relationship with the Imma alayhi salam, his piety, and so on and so forth. Sheikh Muqaddas mentions, one day he slept. Now dreams, we can't prove things from dreams. However, this dream isn't something I wish to prove. It just shows a point. Often, sometimes people say dreams are mentioned a lot. No. If I try to prove something fiqhi from a dream or aqaidi, I can't. And even then there's a discussion amongst ulama that if someone has a dream and there's one of the can this be seen as something I can take something from? In this case, he sees a very simple dream. To explain this point, he says, I saw a dream. In front of me is Musa alayhi salam, Nabiullah Musa. Behind him was the Prophet of Islam sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. The Prophet of Islam says, this is one of the ulama from my ummah, go and speak to him. Musa alayhi salam goes forth. He says, who are you? What is your name? So when someone asks you, what's your name? You give one answer. Very short, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 5 seconds. What's your name? He gives the longest answer that he could think of. My name is Ahmed Muqaddas Ardabili, is from this place and that place. My mother was born here, my father was born here. I live in this place, I live in that place. Whole life story. So Nabi Musa says, this person is meant to be an alim, a person with hikmah and wisdom, doesn't answer like that. You ask him one question, he's going to answer you with something very simple. Why is he telling me the whole life story? So Musa alayhi salam says, Ya Sheikh Ahmed, I asked you, what is your name? You gave me all of this, one whole page, A4 page about your life story. What's going on here? So Sheikh Muqaddas says, Ya Musa, in the Quran, Allah asks you, وَمَا تِلْكَ بِيَمِينِكَ ya Musa, what is in your right hand? What did you reply? He said, Hiya asai atawakka'u alayha wa hushu biha ala ghanami wa liya fiha ma'aribu ukhra. What's in your right hand, O Musa? He says, my staff is in my right hand. I use it to, for example, collect the leaves, and I'm a shepherd with this staff. He says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked you one question. Why such a long answer? Musa alayhi salam says, Sheikh Ahmed, that was the first time I was in conversation with Allah, that I wish to extend it for such a long time that I can remain in conversation. Sheikh Ahmed says, this is the first time I'm speaking to Musa Kalimullah. The point being is that when I am in conversation with my Lord, I wish to extend this conversation as much as I can. The Prophet of Islam says, وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى, a few days without revelation for Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wa alihi is like a whole eternity where he is unable to speak and be in conversation and gain guidance and wahi and revelation and scripture from his Lord. The question that arises, this is the reason why it was revealed after this period, but why? Why does wahi stop? What was the reason that revelation stopped coming for these 15 or 20 or 12 or 40 days to the Prophet of Islam? Here, very interestingly, it's as if the Muslimin, whenever they could find a place or a time to dishonor the Prophet of Islam, they do so. Certain individuals, they find any excuse to lower the status of Rasulullah, they do so. Here, what did they write? They said that one day some of the non-Muslims came to the Prophet of Islam, sallallahu alaihi wa alihi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa alihi. They said, we wish you to ask your Lord about certain things and bring us the answer. Okay, what things? Just tell us about Dhul Qarnayn wa yas'alunaka an Dhul Qarnayn. Tell us about the Ruh wa yas'alunaka an al-Ruh. Qul al-Ruh min amri Rabbi wa ma utitum min al-ilmi illa qalila. And tell us about Ashabul Kahf, the people of the cave. 3 things they were asked. All 3 Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replied through Quranul Kareem. So what does the Muslim Mufassir write? He says the Prophet of Islam was asked these 3 things. He says, I will give you the answer tomorrow. The Prophet of Islam, na'udhu billah, forgot to say insha'Allah. Because he knows, someone asks me a question, I don't answer from myself. وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replies, and it is my tongue that then is used. So when they asked me a question, I knew that the Prophet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would give me these details. So I said, come tomorrow. But na'udhu billah, the Prophet of Islam forgets to say insha'Allah. Because of this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to stop wahi, because Rasulullah has done something which he shouldn't have done. Here we need to understand 2 things. Number 1, the first answer, is that when the Prophet of Islam would indulge in these type of conversations with non-Muslims, would he indulge with these type of conversations in Mecca or Medina? History mentions, especially these questions, these issues would be answered whilst the Prophet of Islam was in Medina. And these verses were revealed whilst the Prophet of Islam lives in Meccatul Mukarramah. So, O Mufassir of Quran, how have you mixed these 2 things together? These questions were not asked whilst he's in Mecca. These questions are asked while in Madinatul Munawwarah. These verses are completely separate. Also, we understand that certain Muslimin, what was their outlook on the life of the Prophet? They thought insan who was placed into nubuwwah. No, it wasn't insan that was placed on nubuwwah. And therefore the Prophet of Islam was honored by being made a prophet because he was an insan. And a human being that was made a prophet. No, it wasn't insan to nubuwwah. It was nubuwwah that was then brought to insan. There's 2 differences, they're big differences. Nubuwwah that was then placed in a human form, not a human being that was placed as a Nabi. And it wasn't that the human being, the Prophet of Islam, was honored by being made a prophet. No, prophethood was honored that Rasulullah was the Khatamun Nabiyyin. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad So then what was the reason for no revelation? This was the idea. We said this idea was wrong. The Prophet of Islam himself says that when certain Muslimin came to him, they said, Ya Rasulullah, why is it that there's no revelation, there's no wahi? We wish to know. The Prophet of Islam would reply, how would there be wahi and revelation when you, O Muslimin, don't wash your knuckles, nor do you cut your nails? Meaning what? You do not have a hygiene, as a punishment to the ummah of the Prophet, to teach them that be clean in your physical body, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stopped wahi. Why? Because we understand what the congregation does altogether affects everyone's relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why do they say, when I have a dua, come and do the dua in congregation? Why? Because there may be someone in the congregation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. I'm sitting next to them. Allah says, I'm a sinner. That other person Allah loves. Allah says, because of that individual, I will answer your dua as well. So there are certain effects of a congregation. The Prophet of Islam says, this ummah of mine, they were dirty, they weren't hygienic. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to teach them that you were given two sides to the coin of your existence. One was the zahir, the physical, the other was the batin. The physical, the zahir was your body. The batin was the soul. Both need to be clean. A person today, he isn't hygienic, he isn't clean, he doesn't groom himself, he won't be able to do ibadah in the best way possible. A person can do ibadah, but once a person is clean, once his clothes are clean, read the adab and the etiquettes of how the Imma alayhim salam, when they would come, for example, to perform salah, how would they come to perform salah? How they would keep themselves groomed and clean. When a person comes towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a clean state, it becomes much more easy for him to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so the Prophet of Islam says their hygiene and nidafah min al-iman was one of the reasons why this wahi stopped and no longer came down. Because we understand. Someone says, look, in the West we don't have this problem. People keep themselves clean, they keep themselves groomed. Yes, okay. It wasn't just the cleanliness of your own body. The riwayah from Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salatu was salam comes and says, if a person, for example, doesn't clean the cobwebs in his house, the utensils, I ate dinner, I left the utensils dirty overnight. All of these things where a person doesn't have hygiene in his own house are a reason for the reduction of that person's rizq and sustenance. So it wasn't just my own hygiene, the hygiene of the center, the hygiene of the house, the hygiene of that which was around me. The hygiene of people's cars. Sometimes you go in someone's car, you think, where have you come? What type of jungle is this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I stopped wahi because of these people's hygiene. That's why we understand the Muslimin. When they had come to Mecca, Madinatul Munawwara, the historical reports mention that the masjid of the Prophet of Islam was small at the beginning. These people, they worked in farms. So they would come and enter to pray Salatul Jama'ah, for example, and there wouldn't be a very nice odor in the masjid. The Prophet of Islam sallallahu alaihi wa alihi has a way. Allahumma salli ala is ordered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to show to them the recommendation and the istihbab of Ghuslul Jumu'ah. That tell them how great Ghuslul Jum'ah is, it has this benefit and that benefit, that if this person doesn't shower all of the week, at least because of Ghuslul Jum'ah, he will wash himself and have cleanliness. Islam focused a lot on cleanliness. Islam said, without cleanliness, I can't have, without the cleanliness of the zahir, I can't have cleanliness of the batin, groom myself, looking beautiful. All of these were part of Islam. And so because of this, this was one of the reasons why wahi no longer came down. Hope. If this has been understood, then we come to these verses. Wahi didn't come down when it was to come after 40 days, after 12 days, after 15 days. What relationship is with وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى? And what was the real reason why this revelation had stopped for this period of time? The answer comes. The real reason is that the mushrikeen and the Muslimin needed to understand who the Prophet of Islam actually is. You take the Prophet of Islam to be a normal human being. You take him to be someone that Allah is upset with because he forgot to do this and he forgot to do that, and so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punished him without sending revelation. But they didn't understand that the first lantern that was lit to remove the dark veils of non-existence, the first star in the horizons of Tawheed, the first battlefield, the first soldier in the battlefield of divine obedience, the first path that was drawn on the map towards divine proximity, the thread through which the tapestry of faith has been woven, was the Prophet of Islam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin. The perfect of all creation, the first of these creation, they needed to understand that whatever he says comes directly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and no one else. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stopped wahi. Why? Because when the wahi was stopped, they would ask questions. Ya Rasulullah, tell us about this. Tell us about salah. Tell us about tawheed. He says nothing. Why? To show to them that this wahi is something true, and to show to them that he only speaks when he is ordered to speak. If there is no breakage in wahi, no breakage in revelation, then whenever they come, he gives an answer. They come one day, he gives an answer. They come another day, he gives an answer. There's no breakage. Easily someone can come and say, look, you ask, he makes up this story, and he takes out an answer from his own jayb and pocket. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when I broke revelation, I did it not to lower the status of Rasulullah. However, I did it to honor him, to show that he only speaks when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends this divine revelation. How then was this related to وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى? Allah says the morning brightness and the night as it covers. How? If today Allah just has daytime, can I survive? There's no nighttime, just daytime. Number one, I don't rest. Number two, the human being is often greedy. If there's no nighttime, he'll never stop working. Number three, nighttime gives me a time to do ibadah and get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So nighttime and the darkness on the horizons is a ni'mah of Allah. And daytime and the brightness is a ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was showing with this imagery of nighttime and daytime and the brightness of the sun at 11 a.m. and the darkness of the night, for example, at midnight, was showing that when I bring wahi and this is brightness, this is part of my ni'mah and bounty. And when I stop wahi and there is darkness of absence of revelation, this is also part of my bounty and ni'mah. We don't understand. In my life, Allah gives me rizq, I'm happy. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Al-Fajr, وَأَمَّا الْإِنسَانَ إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ رَبُّهُ فَأَكْرَمَهُ وَنَعَمَهُ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَكْرَمَنِ. Ya Allah, you filled my pockets, I'm very thankful. However, as soon as I stop, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stops, what does he say? Ahanan. Ya Allah, you dishonored me. We didn't understand. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he gives, is generous. When he doesn't give, is generous. When he brought revelation, there was a reason and hikmah behind. When he stopped revelation, there was a reason and a hikmah behind doing so. For me in my life, in the same way, when he gives me a certain thing, there's a reason. There's a hikmah. When there's lightness, when there's daytime, there's a hikmah. And when there is the darkness of night, of, for example, poverty, of hunger, of suffering, there's also a reason and a hikmah behind, like that which was shown in وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى. And this for us solves many issues. Like what? How when there's darkness, there's a reason. When there's light, there's a reason. Like what? When there is the light of the dhuhur of an imam, there is hikmah and wisdom. And when there is the darkness of the clouds covering the son of Sahib Zaman, there is also a hikmah and reason. In the darkness of ghaibah, there is a hikmah. In the way that I stop revelation to show these people, have and understand the status of your Prophet. In the same way, when we sent Amirul Mu'mineen, they didn't understand the status of Ali ibn Abi Talib, they killed him. I sent Imam Hassan, I sent Hussein ibn Ali, all of them I sent. All of these lights of the duha, of the daytime I sent, they didn't appreciate the daytime. It's only when there is an extended time and period of night time that I realize the worth of the sun. So I gave them an extended period of ghaibah and occultation. So they realized the worth of the son of Zahra alayhi salam.
محمد وآل محمد.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in all that he does, therefore, has wisdom and hikmah. And sometimes I don't realize. Sometimes the Muslimin would come, look, they're upset, Allah is upset with the Prophet of Islam. This mu'min and believer, before he had a lot of wealth, now he has nothing. Before he had this, now he has nothing. This must mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is upset with that believer. No, I need to understand, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes away, this is him giving to me. When he takes, he is actually giving. I'll give you one example. Allama Majlisi rahmatullah alayhi mentions a story from one of the times of the prophets of Banu Israel. There's a king, not a mu'min, not a believer, someone who commits sin, someone who sometimes maybe does good, sometimes does bad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's many examples, Fir'aun for example. These people, they did bad, they also did some things which were good. This king, he doesn't believe in Allah, he doesn't pray, he does X, Y, and Z, but he helps out the people. He feeds, he gives to others, etc., etc. This king falls unwell. When he falls unwell, they enter into his, wherever he was next to his throne. The atibba, the doctors, they surround him and they wish to find out what's wrong. And they know that if we can't diagnose, these people, normally these kings, if you can't diagnose me, if you can't give me a treatment, I'll kill you. So they came, they tried as much as they could. They realized that this king has a certain disease and illness, and it can be cured by getting a certain fish from the sea. Take the fish and do whatever you want with it, eat it or however they prepare it, and he'll be cured. So he says, very good. The response came, no. It's good that we know the diagnosis. The problem is fish are seasonal. Meaning what? Meaning sometimes they're on the top of the ocean, sometimes they're at the bottom. Once they're at the bottom, not at the surface, it becomes very difficult for you to catch them. And at this moment in time, for 6 months, these fish were at the bottom of the ocean. No one can bring you these fish. So yes, we know the treatment, but we can't give you the medicine. So he was very upset. What happens then is that one individual has a bit of courage. He says, I'll bring it for you. Again, this person needs to know that if he can't give it to him, he's going to get killed. He says, I'll bring it for him. He goes. When he goes, he takes out a fishing net, he places it there. The riwayah says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends certain malaika to take those fish right from the depth of the ocean and bring it right onto the top into this person's net. And so when it is extracted, hundreds of these fish are present. He gives it to the king takes it, he is cured, and he gives this person a lot of money. Finished. A few months later now, a mu'min becomes unwell. 6 months later, 7 months later, a mu'min becomes unwell. When this mu'min became unwell, diagnosis, the same illness that the king had. The same response, you need fish. Good news, the fish are in season. So right enough, he goes himself, no problem. He takes the net, he places it into the river or the sea, into the stream. After a while, he takes out nothing. He tries. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent certain angels to take these fish from the surface and place them right into the darkness of the depth of the ocean. He struggles with the pain and the illness until eventually he passes away. Allama Majlis says the question that was asked to the infallibles was, how does this make sense? A person who doesn't believe in Allah, who is not a mu'min, yes, he did a few good things in his life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows him to be treated in this world even though the chances were very scarce and little. Whereas this person who was a mu'min, who was a believer, it was the time in which it was able for him to gain the treatment and nothing. What was my discussion? Sometimes Allah takes away, sometimes Allah gives. All of these are part of His ni'mah, blessings and bounties. Why? The answer came, this person, yes, was a tyrant ruler maybe. He didn't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He wasn't a mu'min. He committed acts of disobedience. However, he would help the people. Like Fir'aun. Fir'aun had a very long life. Why? Because every single day he would feed thousands of people. There was someone in the ummah of Nabi Musa alayhi salam called Samiri. You can read about the history of Samiri. What he does, he takes people towards doing ibadah of the asnam and the idols. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would tell him, don't kill Samiri. He's taking people towards shirk. He says, don't kill Samiri. Why? Because he's very generous. So there's certain things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the person isn't mu'min, he isn't a believer, but there's certain things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes. The answer came, this person wasn't a believer, he may have committed sin, however he would help the people. Therefore he is worthy of a reward in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is just, He has to reward him. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want to reward him in the Jannah and the Akhirah because this person is not a believer. Therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards him in this dunya by making him have good health, have a long life. This is his reward. And so when he goes into the akhirah, he has to deal with his disbelief. As for the mu'min, he's a mu'min. He prays. He has belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yet he used to commit certain acts of disobedience. So Allah has to punish. However, because he is a mu'min who has the candle of iman burning into his hearts, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want to punish him in the akhirah. So he punishes him in this world by prolonging his illness and making him die at a young age. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes gives me something. Sometimes he takes it away. I need to realize that, as it was mentioned in these verses, وَالضُّحَى, when there is light and daytime, bounty of God. When there is darkness, bounty of God. Because if there was never darkness, how could I understand the beauty of daytime? When someone then wishes to understand, we find the same concept in the lives of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. If I didn't see the darkness of oppression that took place on the 10th of Muharram, how do I understand how intense are the rays of Hussein ibn Ali alayhis salam? When I see the darkness that takes place on this day, the thirst of the children, when I see the way in which Hussein ibn Ali salamullah alayhi is killed, where he stops, there's darkness. They understand the light. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was showing the Muslimin, was showing people till the day of Qiyamah. See in the way in which he was mercilessly killed, and you will understand who is the flag bearer of justice in this world. Which family are that family that have always been the flag bearers of justice and adalah and human values? And which individuals are those who hold the banners of injustice, of terrorism, of violence? This exposed the beauty of the sunlight that is Imam Hussein alayhi salam. For Islam, the body of Islam, the hands of this body were very weak. So Hussein gave the body 2 hands of Abul Fadl Abbas alayhi salam. The heart of Islam was in distress. Hussein gave the heart of Akbar salamullah alayhi. The ribs of Islam were broken. Hussein says, I give you the ribs of Qasim. The neck of Islam was about to be slit. Hussein says, I give you the neck of Aliyun al-Asghar. And all of this body was aged, elderly. Hussein says, I give you the old body of my friend Habib ibn Madahir. At the end of the day, a body needs blood to flow through the veins. Hussein says, I give you the blood from my own heart. This blood that was formed from the blood and flesh of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. The body of Islam was old. Hussein says, Habib ibn Madahir, the oldest of the shuhada, the closest friend to Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam. Habib ibn Madahir, his status can be understood from this fact, that anyone that goes to do the ziyarah of Hussein alayhi salam, and today inshallah those that haven't been, should ask with the wasila of Habib that everyone in the next year can do ziyarah of Hussein salamullah alayhi. For the riwayah says, if a person is poor and if a person is rich, if a person is wealthy, he should visit Hussein twice a year. And if he is poor, he should visit Hussein at least once a year. So what excuse do I have not to visit Imam Hussein alayhi salam? The status of Habib is that when I go to visit Hussein salamullah alayhi, as I go by, every zawar cannot stop and look and say, Assalamu alayka ya Habib ibn Madahir. And then they enter the gate towards Hussein salamullah alayhi. Habib says, I was sitting in my house. I'm having dinner with my wife when suddenly there is a knock on the door. If you read the history of Habib ibn Madahir, he's very close to Imam Hussein salamullah alayhi. I said, who is it at the door? The reply came, Ana baridul Hussein wa safiruh. Habib just had to hear the name of Hussein, he stands up. He comes towards the door. He opens the door, he gets a letter from Hussein salamullah alayhi. The letter says, Min Hussein ibn Ali ila rajul al-faqih Habib ibn Madahir. I can call someone a faqih and a jurist. Hussein calls him a faqih and jurist. Hussein salamullah alayhi mentions in that letter that a time has come where the son of Zahra alayhi salam is alone, surrounded by the troops of Umar bin Sa'ad and Yazid. and I need my friend Habib to come and support me. History mentions that as soon as he reads the letter of his master Hussein, Habib is ready. However, he wishes to check his wife whether she is happy. He wishes to test her iman. She says, what's happened? Habib says, this is a letter from Hussein salamullah alayhi. She says, what will you do about it? He wanted to test. He says, I don't know if I can go. My family, Kufa, is very difficult to leave. Will I be able to go? Suddenly she stands up. She says, Habib, أنسيت كلام جده أن هذان سيدا شباب أهل الجنة إمامان قام أو قعدا. Have you forgotten that the Prophet of Islam, the grandfather of these two, had said these two are the masters of the youth of paradise? Have you forgotten that whether they stand or whether they sit, or whether there is a peace treaty with Muawiyah, or whether he stands in front of Yazid, both of these are a'imma. Habib says, this was my intention, I wish to test your heart. And so a time comes where Habib stands. He tells his servant to meet me at a certain place, just on the outskirts of Kufa. Khaifan, he leaves with fear in his heart, because Kufa people were unable to leave. Khaifan, he leaves to go and meet his master Hussein alayhi salam. The lines, if a person reads the lines of his ziyarah, they can understand what status Habib ibn Madahir had reached in the eyes of the Imma Nahlul Bayt alayhi salam. What does the lines of ziyarah say? السلام عليك أيها العبد الصالح المطيع لله ولرسوله ولأمير المؤمنين. Peace be upon you, that righteous servant of Allah and of Rasulullah and Amir al-Mu'mineen. But the lines do not stop there, and it says Abdul Salih al-Muti'u lillah wa li rasulih wa li Amir al-Mu'mineen wa li فاطمة الزهراء والحسن والحسين الغريب. السلام عليك أيها القمر الزاهر, the radiant moon. السلام عليك يا حبيب ابن مظاهر. Habib says, I told my servant, stand on the outskirts of Kufa and prepare my horse to go towards Karbala and Nainawa. Habib says, I was delayed in coming towards my servant. I saw my servant speaking to my horse. He says, if my master Habib doesn't come, then we will go together to protect the son of Zahra. Habib says, I heard this. I said, Ya Aba Abdullah, if this is the status of the servants in your eyes, what will be the status of the ahrar and the free? Habib says, I looked at my servant. I says, from today you are free. The servant says, today the abd of Habib doesn't want freedom, for he wishes to come with you towards Karbala. Habib says, then I mounted my horse and we would go to a plains, a barren plains. I would see the tents of my master Abu Abdullah. Habib says he enters into the camp of Hussein. The riwayah says, as soon as Habib would enter and greet Hussein alayhi salam, in his army had 12 standard bearers, the greatest of these being Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. Until that time 11 had been given. People from the army of Hussein would ask, can we have the 12th of these standards? Hussein would say, this is reserved for Habib ibn Madahir. Habib enters into Karbala, he goes in front of the tents of Zainab and Kulthum. He says, Assalamu alayka ya haram Rasulullah. Zainab says, I heard this call. I said, who is calling out to me? Someone said, Habib ibn Madahir. Will you listen to the response of Zainab? Zainab says, Iqra'u anni as-salam. Give Habib the salams of the daughter of Zahra. Habib says, I heard these salams. I fell on the ground. I took the dust of Karbala. I placed it on my head. I said, who am I for the daughter of Zahra to give me salam? Because Zainab would remember Habib and the other companions again and again, because Zainab knows that Habib is a lawful, loyal companion to Abu Abdullah. She would remember. But I say, Zainab, how much did you remember Habib after Ashura? And how much would you remember when they would whip you from Kufa and Sham? And how much would you remember when you enter into Medina? Because at one point Zainab says, I entered into Medina to Rasulullah. I would go to the grave of my grandfather saying, Assalamu alayka ya Jadda, Salla alayk Malikus Sama. And I would say, Ya Jadda, if there were not people surrounding me, I would show you the wounds on my body, the wounds on my chest. And then I would visit my mother Zahra with the shirt covered in blood of Hussein. And then Zainab would enter back into her house crying for Hussein and her two children. And Abdullah would enter. Abdullah would say, oh woman, this is the house of Zainab al-Kubra. If you wish to cry for Hussein, please cry anywhere else in Medina. Will you hear the response of Zainab? She says, Abdullah, what has Karbala done to me? What has Kufa and Sham done to me? Ana Zainab al-Kubra. My hairs have become white, my back has become bent. Zainab would remember Habib and the companions during this journey. Habib says, Zainab sent me my salams. I fell on the ground. Another time came when I was ready to fight for my master Abu Abdullah. Abu Abdullah gave me permission. Habib would enter into the maqtal and he would fight qatala qitalan shadida. An intense battle takes place with Habib and those around him, until Ibn Numayr says, I would cut the horse of Habib and I would take a strike on the head of Habib ibn Madahir, and Habib would fall on the ground. He calls out for his friend and master, Assalamu alayka ya Zayd al-Shuhada. Hussein says, I came to the body of Habib and I would be around the chest of Habib ibn Madahir. Ya ibn Rasulullah, you are around the chest of Habib. I remembered a riwayah about the chests of the Ummah. I remembered a riwayah of the last moments of Imam Sajjad, because Ya Hussein, you hug the chest of Habib. You're there to comfort his chest as the breath comes out of his lungs. I remember the riwayah of Imam Sajjad, that Imam Sajjad was in his last moments. Baqir says, I was hugging the chest of my father. Sajjad says, oh my son, Ya Muhammad, I have two requests before I die. The first is take my body and place it onto the ground. And the second is please come off my chest. Baqir says, I would place him onto the ground and I would come off his chest and I would say, Ya Abata tell me the reason for these actions. He would say, I made you place me on the ground because I remembered in his last moments, my father's body lay bare on Karbala, and I told you, come off my chest, because I was thinking in my last moments, my son is on my chest, but in his last moments was Shimr jalisun ala zadri. Shimr once sit on the chest of Hussein. Habib, how lucky you are to have Hussein on your chest. A time would come where then Habib's body is left to die. His head is cut, his head would be placed on a spear and arrow and would be taken through Kufa and Sham. The riwayah says when the head of Habib goes in through to the market of Kufa, there is a child that always looks at the head of Habib and would follow wherever it goes. They would ask, what is your relationship with Habib? The child would say, I am Qasim, the son of Habib. Do you allow me to have the head of my father? They would give Qasim the head of Habib. I say, Qasim, at least you were given the head of your father. Sajjad would say, whenever we try to get the head of Hussein, they would begin to beat us. على لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. يا حسين.